This time Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketia, it's in, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Arsenal Podcast, aka the Carl Jenkinson of Arsenal Podcast. My name is Mike, who's your host. Today, boys, we're going to talk about the Arsenal 0, Spurs 1 preseason game. We're going to talk about a little bit of the social media meltdown, targeting players, I'm going to describe it as, because there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of disgruntledness despite the immense positivity that we've seen in this transfer window that we haven't seen in, I think, never before. I think that's a safe bet to say. Never before seen transfer window thus far. It seems all the smoke indicating that it might not be over yet. We're apparently still in for Eze, and somehow preseason game, caused a lot of waves on the socials today. So we'll deep dive. We'll talk about the goal, the fault, and what we got looking forward for the Emirates Cup, if you will. First and foremost, as always, the introductions. Chris, welcome back, Chris.
Hey, boys. Nice that we could pod this week. I know that was a bit up in the air and iffy due to schedules. And we keep you on your toes, dear listener, because we don't even know if we're going to be podcasting on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So therefore, you don't either. But we snuck it in. It's got to be one of those 3 days. We snuck it in at the end of the week. Just in time to talk about a loss to Spurs. What could be better?
Love it.
Yeah, so we're going to try and condense this into an hour conversation. We'll see how we do. But yeah, I mean, it's always good to talk to you guys, even if it's a loss. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, we couldn't resist the opportunity of podcasting after a loss versus Spurs. So we have like quick emergency podcast, boys. Kelly, welcome back. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I apologize. A lot of the schedule delay this week is mine. I've been dealing with like migraine headaches, probably preparing myself emotionally and psychologically for the upcoming Arsenal season. That's going to cause me that. I'm just getting like future tremors of the physical discomfort the season will cost me. But yeah, so that was a delay. And then I had a personal scheduling thing that I forgot about yesterday. So really behind the curtain, my fault. But oh boy, am I glad that we get to talk about whatever that Spurs match was today, and then the predictable meltdown that followed it. That actually probably was helpful for me because I left a giant group chat that I've been threatening to, and actually at times been trying to get kicked out of. And I finally got to my wit's end today with some of the complete insanity from the people there. So every dark cloud is a silver lining, I guess.
Now, I got to ask you, Kelly, did you leave or did you finally get kicked out? Because I thought the goal was to get kicked out.
Yeah, I mean, their tolerance for nonsense was more than I was expecting. So I was actively trying to get kicked out for a lot of it. And eventually I just hit my carry capacity where it's just like, I can't remember what I think there was somebody who was passionately opining that his solution was right now, you got to drop Arteta and bring in Nagelsmann right now. On the back of this preseason game, it's over. It's over. It's been over. This is done. Obviously, it's Nagelsmann, or you got to go get Inzaghi. He just went to Saudi. He's making $100 million a year, but it doesn't matter. You got to go match it and just go get him.
Is the guy just banned from the live comments? Is he part of that? Was he part of that?
Oh my God, I don't know. Well, I can't even remember what he said. The other player that he said was like the solution, which was also just the most asinine and impractical thing. And like, I thought I was going to go out in a blaze of glory and I was going to like say something really, because I have been kicked out of groups before and I usually like I know the direction it's going and I just start like everybody starts catching strays and they throw me out kind of. But this was one where it was literally as soon as I saw that, like I think I sent a screenshot or I said something to like our own back channel. I was like, nope, done, leave conversation. I was like, didn't say anything. It just would have showed up. I'm engaged, and then it just goes, I'm gone. Because it was just like, I for my own health, I can't talk to people like this anymore. Like every transfer is life and death. Every minute of every result, everything. It's not only like judged like year by year. It's not judged month by month. It's not just week by week. It's like moment within match by moment. and the same people. And there was also like, I was getting into it because people are like, I chose to be optimistic about Madueke. And then one of the guys who said that fold the club when we signed Madueke was like, we need this man. He needs to be here right now. And it's like, you just said a week ago you hated him and it was the downfall of Arsenal that we signed this guy. And now you're like, we need this guy in our team starting. It's like, all of you people are idiots. I don't know anybody's real name, so fuck all of you. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you get to the point where like, it was like this distilled group of 50 of like the most obnoxious reactionary accounts that you could possibly find. And so help me God, whoever invited me and put me in that group, I asked multiple times, like, which one of you pricks invited me to this conversation, by the way, because I hate
like, you. This is more of a punishment than an actual privilege of being here.
This is like something that like,
normally, like, your directness, as I like to call it, normally that gets you in hot water, but wow, they wore you down.
Oh my God. This is like something Dean would do as a prank. He's like, he'd be like, get into this group somehow. He's like, God, Kelly would hate it here. Invite me and then immediately leave before anything happens. Like, this is something that Dean would do and then not tell me until like 6 months later when I blow my top here on this podcast.
And then somehow lock you in where you can't leave.
Yeah, so you're like, get in the code or something and make sure that I can't get out of this group. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely love it. I'm actually got tossed into a different group myself, but a lot of positive gooners in there. Let me tell you. Matter of fact, somebody dared say, and I quote, they dared say if Liverpool get Isaac, it's their league, and he got lit up. I'll support your team. It's not a given. And I was like, wow, they're crazy positive. Sometimes for SNGs, as Chris knows me well, and he's seen this in real person, where like somebody goes too far left, I just overcorrect right for the fucking sake of it.
Oh yeah.
I found myself doing that today with Martinelli. Like, I'm like halfway through the conversation, like, why am I defending Martinelli right now? All because everybody went so far against them, and I'm like, fuck, I guess I got to do this just for the sake of practice, and practice I did. So I was a Martinelli stand for a brief 20 minutes. You would have been proud of me, man.
You being Mr. Common Sense is something that has happened more often lately, and I'm both proud of you and sad, kind of, Mike.
Yeah.
you're off in the common sense balance to all the nonsense that happens. I think you're exposed to so much of the Twitter nonsense now, and you're on different pods and everything. Like, to keep your own sanity, like, you have to have this little orb of common sense in the middle of your thought process. Because if you went, I think you get who's the guy who looks like the skeleton dipped in wax. That guy, what's his name? The yelly guy.
Hold on, repeat that one more time.
Skeleton dipped in wax. Crazy guy.
Skeleton dipped. No, you got me. You got me there. That's very. Whew. We got a Spurs fan in the live chat. Hey, welcome, Ronnie. Thanks for joining us here, taking the piss out of us. Enjoy it while you can, man, and I appreciate you dropping by and saying hi.
The boss in a preseason game in Hong Kong, Ronnie. Even for you. You have a good manager though. Now I was not thrilled when Thomas Frank went there. I think he's a very good coach. So it's probably going to get better, unfortunately.
Kelly, while you think of who the skeleton dipped in wax is,
it's Lee Judges for sure.
It's Lee Judges for sure. Okay. Chris and I are going to get the ball rolling on this, and one question for me regarding the starting lineup, Chris. And I know that there's a lot of rotation, but I guess my expectations for these preseason games is to start what I believe would be the closest thing to your starting 11 going forward, and then giving them whatever 30, half a match, 60 minutes, however you want it. I've been surprised with the amount of minutes Norgard have been getting over Zubimendi. You think it's just a thing of fitness? Is it a thing about changing the league and they're trying to ease them in? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's the one that felt perhaps the most perplexing as we looked at the starting lineups. And we know Madueke is not available. He's on holiday. Gyökeres is just come to the club, so you wouldn't expect him after one training session to start. Everybody else, you probably expect to be the starter in match week 1 at Old Trafford. And then to Norgard, and yeah, I was like, I'm not quite sure why he's starting. My sense of it is that Arteta wants to see what his skill set looks like in the first team, because if he's going to have to rotate Zubimendi, because I think Zubimendi is the locked-in starter day one, probably starts most big games certainly. Norgard comes in and spot starts on occasion. I think Arteta is trying to figure out what is his skill set in our team. What does he add? And what does maybe a midfield three of him and Rice and Odegaard look like? And I think because I think Arteta has scouted Zubimendi for so long, he knows exactly what he's getting in Zubimendi. He knows exactly what his skill set is. He knows exactly how he's going to fit into the team. He knows he's going to be a very good progressor of the ball, very much the tempo setter. I don't think he knew exactly what Norgard would give him from that perspective. And I think after this game, I think he realizes, boy, as I think we all kind of surmised, if you're looking at him to be a progressive passer of the ball, that's not him. He's a fairly functional player. He's in some ways a little bit like Rice when Rice plays at the base of midfield, in that, he can shield the back four. He is active and lively. He can recover loose balls, but he's not the guy that's going to get you up the pitch. He's going to be the guy that gets somebody else the ball that gets you up the pitch. And so for me, playing him at the base of midfield is more of a closer role than it is a starter role. Because I just don't know. I don't know, especially against certain teams, how we progress the ball up the pitch if we're going to play through the thirds with Norgard at the base of our midfield. Doesn't mean that he won't get better, or that maybe this is an anomaly, but from an N of one game against a pretty structured Spurs team with Frank at the helm, I think a lot of our progression up the pitch was going long, and I think part of that. I know AVP talked about how the pitch was terrible. I don't know anything about the pitch. If the pitch was bad or not, I'll take their word for it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of what we were doing in terms of progression was kicking the ball long and winning second balls. But if we're going to play against teams where we try to play through the thirds and not just kick it long, I'm not sure Norgard is the guy to do that from the base of midfield. So yeah, I think he was just trying to figure out what we have. And I think that's what preseason's for. And I think we learned some things about maybe the limitations of Norgard's game.
I was half expecting Kelly to come in there, so I half paused there for a brief second. Sorry. So that covers Odegaard for the most part. Norgard, excuse me.
Yes, there's lots of guards, Mike.
A lot of guards.
That's the Scandinavians all of a sudden. Here.
All the Scandinavians all over the place. Now, on the bright side, he is viewed as second and not potentially even a third option in that six, because I'll dare say that not only that Zubimendi is going to start, but I could totally see either Declan Rice being dropped back in there or Merino being dropped in there. They might be interchangeable. He's very much like the third, fourth option. We saw it with Jorginho, right? Jorginho played, maybe 90 minutes throughout the entire last season. So I don't think he's expected to play a whole lot, but that's a good point, Chris, as far as maybe potentially just viewing what kind of tools he has on his locker. And there has to be substantially more film on Zubimendi. And there's probably, in my mind, what's going on right now is that they're briefing him, and every single player that comes and plays for us says that they're met with an insane amount of new knowledge and tactics and everything, just the education process. And I really do think that they're just kind of buckling him down, educating him, teaching them, and kind of giving him all this information just for future reference. So 2 Emirates games coming up back in London. So that should be interesting to see the starting 11. Now, something that got brought up, BX Schooner brought this up. Kelly, do you have any problems whatsoever for the time in which we waited to do the substitutions? Like, on one hand, you were playing versus Spurs, and nobody wants to lose versus Spurs. Second part, though, it is a preseason game of, quite frankly, no real value other than fitness. So you got the likes of Kai Havertz, Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, all of those players playing 70 minutes. Now we're playing almost full 90s for preseason games. The norm, so to say, is a full 11 swap at 45th minute, more or less, right? So concern, or this just typical Arteta being Arteta, like, hey, if you're fit, you play. We need you match fit. And he's a big fan of keeping that consistency and fitness in game time play.
Well, it's like 3 weeks, right? And the season starts.
It is right around the corner.
2 weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
yeah.
Actually,
Oh, wow.
Saturday.
Yeah,
Or this Friday, tomorrow.
Boys, we got to come up with another mascot really fast now. Holy shit.
Lucky for us, there's been lots of shitty players at Arsenal recently, so it shouldn't be hard to. Deciding will be the difficult part. Finding a bunch of It's like fishing for shit in the porta potty. I think we'll find some. It's making sure that we get the right turd, not find one. But it's So I guess I don't have a huge problem with this. I mean, we have a lot more depth. A lot of the issue here too, I think, is that he had Gyökeres on one training session, so he was going to be capped at 15 to 20 minutes max. And I think it was pretty clear when he was playing, it was kind of just go out there and run around and get some in your legs. Because of the stupid Club World Cup, it means that Madueke is not in yet. It does sound like he wanted to be there, but we told him, like, no, go take a rest. So he'll be back in London too. It's just a little. I guess I'm not super concerned. We're still subbing. We're still seeing. 20 minutes of Max Dauman. Like Mosquera came in and played. You're also, to some degree too, there would be more rotation if it was like Gabriel and Timber and some of these other players were able to be there too. How helpful is it to rotate in players that are not ever going to play, I guess. So I'm sure you'd rather add another 10 minutes to and maybe stretch and help guys who are actually going to start matches get their legs and get their lungs and everything versus just rotating for its own sake. Like we didn't see like Josh Nichols in this game. We didn't see like some of the deep bench, like 21-year-old academy guys that aren't going to play. Like, I think it's just all part of the process and all gathering. We have more players, and we have more players in positions that will rotate out guys like Saka and Havertz and everything too, but they're just kind of not there. I don't know. I guess I can't be asked. Saka limps all the time, no matter what. I think it's just his reaction to getting kicked. I do have somewhat of a problem with like who allowed us to play in travel halfway around the world and then like play against Spurs on a shitty pitch and like play against Newcastle and get booted up in the air. Like, I think if you make it through these matches where people don't get injured and you do okay in the matches, you say that it's like, okay, it's like toughing us up and getting us ready for the season. But if a Trossard is injured now and he can't be transferred now and he can't be replaced now, that's a problem. Again, obviously, because our handsome Italian center back is made out of paper mache. He's obviously injured now for a period of time, but he also can't play more than 3 matches without getting a soft tissue injury. So, like, I don't know. I think we'll be fine. The name of this podcast, we're referencing like kind of old wounds. We have we have significant soft spots in our fandom for how our team was constructed and how our squad was used or not used recently. So we're really, really, really live to instances where we think that that's happening again. And I just don't think that's the case, I guess. It's going to be more of a confluence of circumstances. Like, we should, 2 weeks before the start of the season, our starters should be able to play 70 minutes in a match where we're largely just fucking lumping at 40 yards in the air and running onto it. It's like not that big of a deal. It's just, as long as you don't get kneecapped by Betancourt, which apparently he tried to do to like half of our team, I think it's fine. And again, like I don't know, Ben White was trying to kill everybody too. So I think it's just your assholes are being major assholes when it's a derby in the preseason. But
Romero and Havertz too. Definitely, there's a lot of that to go around on both sides.
So
it's silly to think that those guys actually don't like. They actually don't like each other too. Like, no, I don't think that that's a put on. I think really those like there are players within these two teams that really don't care for each other. And when they started flying and they figure out the ref was a complete dipshit and had no control over the match, it's like, okay, we found the weakness. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll talk about the goal, and man, I don't want to start talking about the refs during a preseason game because we got a whole 38 games of PGML to worry about. I'm not going to stress out over it. We all have questions about his decision making, but I wanted to highlight a comment, Chris, because this is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. BX Gooner 81 says, against Spurs, it's never a friendly. Now, I sympathize with that sentiment, but here's my issue. Mexican teams have been doing this a lot for years and years and years, that they kind of sacrifice the sporting part of it in order to create more money. And they know that Arsenal versus Newcastle, Arsenal versus Spurs is going to be a bigger attraction than. And I don't say this to take the piss out of United, but because Bournemouth is a smaller market team. United versus Bournemouth, right? We saw the stadium and it was like, what, a third filled? And
yeah,
I understand that the pricing in the United States is pretty wild, but there's this movement to monetize everything in football, and it's been going on in years. But in my opinion, we shouldn't fucking be playing Newcastle. We saw what Max Dallman got like slapped or punched in the face. We just spoke about the physicality between Romero, Bantacourt, Ben White. I just don't understand why we're choosing to have these high profile games in which there's bad blood, so to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between Newcastle and Arsenal, there's always been something there for the last 4, 5, 6 years, right?
Yep.
Spurs, it's been there since the beginning of time. I
Yep.
don't understand how we end up in these situations playing these teams. Like, go play fucking Valencia.
Yep.
Go play Inter Milan. Go play somebody without your league. Preferably for me, go play a mid-table team, if not a bottom-table team, and just get your fitness up. But we saw this in the past. We had like 2-3 seasons ago where somebody got injured versus Chelsea and missed like the first 2-3 months of the season. Can't remember whom, but point stands. I don't understand this at all. Chris, do you? Where are you on this? Just because I saw the comment from BX Gooner and it triggered me a little bit. I just needed to get it off my chest, so to say. Where are you on this? Is competitiveness and better teams for preseason a good thing for us, or would you rather us play some random Celtic, some random team from Scotland that Kelly could pronounce probably, and just watch us murder them like 5-0 or something? And you're like, okay, job done. Our boys got 60, 70 minutes. They trotted around. #cardio. Job, everybody's happy.
I'm not going to pretend to understand how these things get scheduled. I don't know who's responsible for it. I'm sure someone at the club hierarchy, Arteta, has to agree to the preseason slate of games that we choose to play and where we play them. Maybe less so where we play them, but who we play. But I think both things can be true, that we should, I think, play competitive games. I do not subscribe to the Arsene Wenger theory of playing, some sheep herders in the middle of Austria and pretend like that's actually, competitive in a preseason situation, which I think is actually important. I think it's important that you play competitive games that are going to approximate what you're going to see in the league, because if you don't, that step up from, Sheep Herders FC from the non-division in Austria to playing Manchester United, no matter how shit they are, is gonna look and feel really, really different. And the gap and the delta between those two teams is going to be eye-opening. But I don't think you have to play rivals and I think this was really evident in the Spurs game, maybe less so evident in the Newcastle game, but still pretty evident, that when you're playing a team in your own division that does not like you, and you have a ref, an officiating crew that has no interest in officiating the game to prevent injuries and to prevent extracurriculars that can get someone injured unnecessarily in preseason, it doesn't strike me as a very wise decision on the part of the club, especially if we're not going to be the ones that give it. We're just going to be the ones that take it. To your competitive resilience and your competitive outcome in the Premier League. I mean, we went out today and also the Newcastle game with a couple of injuries. I don't know how many of those were due to rough play. But that's always the risk you're going to take. If you're playing against a team that hates you, you're not going to treat it like a friendly. You're going to treat it like a rivalry. You're going to go probably harder than you would normally go. You're going to get kicked harder than you're probably normally going to get kicked. And as we know, injuries ruin seasons. And we saw this a couple years ago where we started without Gabriel at the beginning of the season because of an injury in preseason. There's been a couple other instances that I'm forgetting now, but I remember us starting seasons with less than a great squad situation from an injury situation, and it's ruined the beginning of our season, and it's been detrimental to our title challenge. So if we somehow rock up to match week 1 against Manchester United and we don't have Gabriel, we don't have Timber. Now those guys were injured from last year, so it doesn't really count toward my point, but we're also missing a Calafiori. We're missing, a whole host of other players that have gone out, and we're starting a team that is less than 100%. That's a bit unforgivable in my mind, because you have to start out of the gates quick in the Premier League. There is no dropping cheap points if you want to win the league. And so I would rather see us play a lot more of the Milans of the world, because I think a Milan is still competitive, even if they're not a European team this season. They're still, a top team in a European top 5 division. We can go off and play maybe the top 6 to 8 of the Bundesliga. We could play the top 6 to 8 of La Liga, which I know we're going to be doing next week in the Emirates Cup. We could be doing what Liverpool's doing right now. They played Milan, but then they played Yokohama FM. They played Stoke City. They played Preston, for God's sakes. They're going to be playing Athletic Club in a two-legged for some reason. Just one game. Sorry, next week. I'm just looking at the schedule. I mean, I think you can get some competitive games in there and not risk unnecessary injuries in preseason. And I think we do that when we get teams like Newcastle and Spurs.
And last but not least, I gotta say, just before we move on to the game, just a little pet peeve of mine that I forgot to say this. Just again, and it's just for the name of season tickets. I mean, sorry, sales of tickets. It's just in the name of glorifying these things. Guys, stop giving out fucking cups for this. Like, for the love of God, stop giving out. Like, okay,
it's like Wara Trophy Arsenal, and it's like this like
let me take
a fluke or something like that.
Yeah, like a day or two ago when Arsenal fucking won a cup, like the players were like, okay, thanks for giving. Like, it's almost fucking awkward for a bigger team. And then on the flip side, you get a team like Spurs, and like they're like legitimately celebrating it, and I'm like, bro, you look fucking ridiculous. Guys, stop it. Like, stop these fucking trophy things. That's a pet peeve of modern football. I'm gradually transitioning to the old man. My rightful place where I'm supposed to be, I would say.
Hers, but like, remember when everybody, like, it was about 20 minutes ago that we'd win the Community Shield, and people would be like, that's not a fucking trophy. And it's like the exact same fan groups are like, we won the Jack Off ASICS Cup in Chinese Taipei. It's like, what? What the fuck are you talking? It's not a trophy. It's, remember when, like, before Spurs won the watered down Europa League last year, they were like the Audi Cup or whatever, something they actually displayed, and fans would earnestly tell you, I was like, well, that was a real cup. There's good teams there. It's like, okay, well, is it a cup or not? Because you can't be both. The Community Shield, that's actually the kickoff to the season, is either not a trophy or it is, and the preseason trophies are not. I don't know. But it's all like I said, that group that I got chucked from or whatever. It's like these people will fight with the fucking wind for blowing, and be like it's just unbelievable. Anything you say, there's no consistency. You'll come back, and the same exact fans that say, "Oh, Mickey Mouse Cup, not a real thing, war a trophy," will, again, if one of their youth players wins like man of the match for like a U21 cup game, they'll talk about it like it's the greatest. It's like, oh, for sure, future Ballon d'Or winner. It's like, if there's no standards, it's just each thing is viewed in isolation with the most extreme prejudice possible towards your team and against any common sense. And that's what their state of being is on the internet. And like, I don't know, man, I'm getting, for the first time in my Twitter kind of career here, I'm spending less and less time on there because I just want to fucking strangle everybody that I talk to because they're so stupid.
Well, it's why
except for all you guys in the chat, obviously.
It's why we've had 2 Spurs fans in the live chat tonight already. It's like,
yeah, I still want
you guys haven't had anything. You guys haven't had any reason to show up in our chat until a preseason trophy, and that's what you guys are gonna, swing your dick around about. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, the other reason why I hate preseason trophies is that dickheads like Richarlison posts this on his Instagram and then tags Gabriel Magalhaes as if winning a man of the match in a preseason tournament matters not to Gabriel. And then Gabriel, of course, responds with a 3-time player of the match game where we actually beat Spurs in a meaningful game in the Premier League. So
it's actually funny with Richarlison because we've diagnosed Richarlison as somebody who is stupid. Like, that's the thing on him.
It's with stupidity.
I know this is really hard to follow, but like, his IQ is low, and so he's really, really stupid. And like, that's why he does stuff. And you'd think that he'd, like, the generous character, the generous interpretation would be like he's taking the piss out of it, and it's like, this is obviously stupid, so I'm just gonna like lean into it. But I just think everything that you see about him and everything that he does, it's pretty clear that he's just an imbecile. And so, like, we've all played on sports teams with guys like that, where it's like, oh God, there's Richarlison's at it again. And because Gabriel knows him and plays with him internationally, it's like, oh God, he's treating that man of the match award and that wireless logo trophy as a real thing, isn't he? Like, oh God, he's gonna do that stupid chicken dance in here, isn't he? Like, it's just like he's just one of those people that you deal with in your like professional life that's just a complete moron, and you don't quite know how he got here, but everybody just has to kind of deal with him because he's there. He's that guy. He's the guy who's like he's pretty kind of Peter principled out as being a marginal starter on a mediocre Premier League team, and now anytime that he does anything that's remotely positive, he acts like he's Lionel Messi, and it's weird. He also has a back tattoo of Neymar, I think. And there's a picture of him showing it to Neymar, and Neymar being really weirded out by it. And Neymar's like a huge weirdo too. So this is just somebody who is a very low IQ human being, and not in like a lovable, cheery way, but in like a kind of detestable, uncomfortable way, I think.
Yeah, I could safely say that I dislike certain players because of how good they are.
Yeah,
and like because of what they've done, like I'm like, fuck yeah, he's not one of them. He's more. He's like, no, I genuinely mean this, and I know it sounds like I'm doing it just to take the piss out of him, but he does more like I'm like really, bro, like that's what I'm left with. Like the shit that he does sometimes. I'm like, I don't understand what you're bragging about right now.
We might bring him up again in this very podcast because he had some memorable moments in this game. Let me tell you.
Well, it's like how you can like tacitly respect like Mickey Van de Ven and like Jed Spence for being like good players, right? And it's like I don't like them because they play for Spurs, but like I understand that Van de Ven is like very fast and he has good defensive interventions, and like I don't have any tacit professional respect for Richarlison. I think he's a moron in the same way that Joe Linton's a complete imbecile that just crashes into people and acts really stupid. And his earmuffs Abreu, but like his Brazilianness, I think, gives him a little bit of leeway. Because they assume because he's a Brazil international that he's not a complete pile of shit, which he is. I suppose Romero, too, I think has a little bit of that South American glean on him where it's like, oh, he plays for Argentina. It's like, well, no, he's actually really stupid and not very good. He tried to kick the ball into his own net this match and we fucked it up because he headed it backwards and put a great through ball, I think, to Kai Havertz for some reason under almost no pressure. And he just ran around and careened into people several times in the box. And if the ref was not some dipshit from Sunday League over in Hong Kong, would have called a penalty. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of my angst out of this. I didn't realize I had so much angst.
What I'm taking from this, Kelly, is that you hate Brazilians, is what I'm hearing.
I wish that we had a Brazilian that was and another earmuffs Abreu. Like, why does our Brazilians suck? And there are good ones on the is injured. We have one really good one. He's not here. I miss it. It's all just heartache from I want Big Gabby back. I need him back in my life. It's all just me being sad.
That's what morning. We're just back. We're just lashing because we don't have Big Gabby. That's all it is.
We love you, Abreu.
I'm gonna make it up to you. I'm gonna defend Martinelli for a brief 5 minutes in this podcast. So
fair.
Let's dive into the game a little bit, Chris. I mean, is there any other than the goal in the first half? Is there any points that you want to touch upon before we get to the goal and the kerfuffle that was? Yeah, shoot for it.
Well, I just think there's some meta things to talk about here, and I think it dovetails nicely into the title of our episode, which is Gifts of Seasons Past, and that is outside of I think the first 5 minutes. And I think we actually started the game really lively. If you guys remember, I don't think Tottenham had a touch of the ball except for kicking it out of their touchline for corner kicks for us.
They had one corner kick in which they hit the post early on in the first half, I believe. Yeah, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
but yeah, the first I would say like first 10 minutes, it was highly played in their third.
Our press was really good. Our center backs were pushed up. We were winning every header that was cleared out of their back third. We had a couple of transition opportunities. Those shots were blocked, but at least, we look lively and on it in transition. I think, having Gyökeres in that game state would have been lovely, but he wasn't ready to start, and I understand why. But I think we started well, but I think what inevitably we saw as time went on was as Spurs got in the game, we reverted to type in that we had very little central access. We did very little in the center of the pitch. A lot of it was down a wing, get double teamed, especially on the right-hand side. swing it back to the fullback, swing it back to the center backs, push it over to the other side, try the exact same thing on the left-hand side, give up the ball, Spurs go on transition on the counterattack, rinse and repeat. And I think we've seen that way too often at Arsenal in the last 5 years, where we just, and it was a 0-0 game state, so Spurs weren't necessarily camped out, right? Like there was more space to be had in the first half of the game, where ideally you've got space to collect the ball in between the lines and drive at the opponent, but we haven't figured out, or we don't have the right personnel. Maybe we didn't have the right personnel starting the game. I think going back to our Zubimendi Norgard situation, if we'd had Zubimendi start, perhaps we would have had, a bit more luck in the center of the pitch. But it's a slog. It doesn't look great. It's attacking wise, it's boring to watch. It's not effective. And when you don't have a killer on both sides of the pitch, and I think this is where Martinelli starts to be implicated, you lose your ability to take advantage of the opponent, to claim numerical advantage on crosses or on cutbacks. And if you guys recall, and I tweeted this today, I said my one observation from the game is that on the right-hand side, Spurs knew that's where our threat was. And with Saka, even with Dauman, they had at least 2 players defending them every time they got the ball. I called sometimes they had 3 or 4 blocking off the path to a Saka and a Dauman trying to get in the box. But what happens on the left-hand side, Martinelli, and then even Trossard to some extent, they go 1v1 with Martinelli. They don't even bother bringing a second person over. And they leave that other person in the box to defend any crosses because they know Martinelli's not going to beat anybody. And I think that is like our attack right now in a nutshell, is that we're very one-sided. And if that one side can't create anything and score goals, we're not scoring.
Yeah.
And when we go down 1-0, the opponents do is bunker in and play a low block, and the chances of us breaking that down are very, very little. And that's what happened. They scored first. They spent the majority of the second half bunkered down and parked the bus, and we couldn't get any joy out of it. And I think that is, unfortunately, our kryptonite. And while we didn't have our new players in there to affect that, in the case of Chris, until the last 15 minutes, no Madueke and no Zubimendi for the first 60 minutes, however long it was, that will forever be our problem until we can incorporate those new players and figure out a way to break that down. So that's my kind of story of the team.
Yeah, the more that every time we have Saka, it's undeniable that we heavily played on the right hand side. Mm-hmm. Now, you normally give the ball to your best player, and he is by far our most creative and lethal outlet in the final third. So I understand that tactic, but to your point, Chris, teams are getting a little bit more wiser about it, and it's seemingly all they do is like double team, triple team Bukayo Saka. It makes things very difficult, and on the off chance and where the ball goes to the left, things don't always go well or to plan with Martinelli. Now, to give Spurs a little bit of a credit here, as Stan the Man 68 said in the live chat, Spuds look better already under Frank than they did under Fat Ange. I'll say this: they defended considerably well, considering that their fucking back four wasn't at the halfway line. So they don't do the high line of doom. They were very compact throughout the game, and when they managed to score that goal, and that we were going to talk about in just a little bit, they got really compact, and they dedicated themselves to that deep block. And I don't know if that's a tactic that Thomas Frank wants to execute throughout the season and say, hey, this is the squad we have, and this is what we're going to play in order to get these type of points off of big teams. We know that he's used to training teams more in the I was going to say more in the middle of the table, and I just remembered where Spurs finished. So haha to me, I guess, because I was going to say, I guess in a way it was he was doing a little bit better than he was in Spurs, but I think they could be really well organized. and they're going to be well organized and difficult to beat in a lot of occasions. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of Spurs being this frustrating for a lot of teams in the league. Now, that's new stuff for Spurs, but the old stuff for Arsenal is the attacking predominantly on the right-hand side, Kelly. And thus far, we haven't been able to find that, and maybe that's why more and more people are crying out for a left-sided winger. A lot of people are saying, hey, if Eze comes in, we could play him in the left wing. I don't think that's where he predominantly plays, and maybe that's why a lot of people get more excited about the Rodrigo links, so the potential of that happening. I'm in the camp that I don't see it happening, but we are becoming predictable, in my opinion, in our attack. Now, do we chalk that up as predictable tactics, or are you hoping to see somewhat different makers coming in when Gyökeres starts to play a little bit more, Madueke starts to play a little bit more, and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think because of our injuries and absences last year, we kind of did the bad Arsenal even more, or the gross Arsenal even more, because we had to. We didn't have fresh attackers. We were just cobbling together the basically front fours based on whoever was there, plus like Marino and everything. And so we really retreated back into that just horseshoe of death, keep possession so they can't score on you, pump the ball to the back post and do some chaos and see what happens. I think we are still undoing that pattern of play because of how long we were stuck in that pattern. And we talked about this a little bit in our back channel too, in the larger back channel, it's like when Arteta got here, it was an absolute dumpster fire, and he had to slowly build a competent defense out of that. And then we saw, I think, when we had our kind of like magic back four, so we had Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, and Lewis Skelly, we were able to push high enough that we could get more thrust, and just through sheer numbers, the back four had enough aggression and recovery speed to be able to mop everything up. And then Raya playing 40 yards off his line too. It pushed everything up, and so it allowed us to be a little bit more threatening, but not particularly dynamic. Just more people in the box, more possession near the box, and just because of quantity of players and time on ball and dangerous areas, it was a little bit better. I believe that the acquisitions of Gyökeres, and we keep saying it like he's not actually Portuguese. He's Hungarian. He's a Hungarian Swedish person. So like it's Gyökeres, I think is how you pronounce it. But with him being more of a box, a one snapshot touch and shoot guy, Madueke being an absolute a high dribble success guy. We are Eze, who's again it seems like it's fairly well sourced that we're looking for him again, either in a modified kind of left half space way to play the left wing, or as more of a playing an attacking eight, something like that. We are trying to supplement the existing player group with players who are different and more dynamic and more direct. So I think the idea is to not, and I guess I struggled with this a little bit too, because it's the familiarity brings contempt a little bit with Arteta and with the kind of more conservative play patterns. And we've seen it a ton, and we forget the fact that our pants are, aside from individual errors and fouls that led to the Spurs goal, where it's typically, unless there's an individual error, like our structure doesn't give, I think we only gave away like 6 shots this entire match. And the only shot on target was Miles Lewis-Skelly trying to dribble past 3 guys for no reason in the middle of the pitch after taking a 10-yard pass from Raya for no reason in the middle of the pitch, and then getting fouled and that not being called for no reason in the middle of the pitch because the ref's a fucking moron, and he's, again, plays for the refs for the Hong Kong Premier League or whatever the fuck. So, like, there's a lot of, we largely did the stuff that we do well, but the problem is that in this match, without those other players and without dynamic performances from the players who have kind of been struggling, we also did the same bad stuff that we do offensively, which is a lot of the horseshoe in that. So really, I think there's going to be a tweak in tactics and maybe more directness and more channel running and more pressing and high turnover stuff to quick action. But also, like, I fully anticipate at Manchester United, this is me being pie in the sky, but I think Gyökeres will be the starting center forward. I think Madueke will be the starting left wing. And there will be two different players in the front three. And then I would assume too the back four will be Lewis and will be the same. It'll be Lewis, Skelly, and I suppose probably Kivior still. I think we'll have to play there because I don't think Gabriel will be ready. But like, I do think that those two new attackers are going to be there, and Arteta's not going to pay all that money and do all that to push them to get in if he's just going to run Havertz and Martinelli out there again, especially when Martinelli has done less than nothing. He's literally does exactly the same thing. There's not been a guy who plays for Arsenal that I like as a person that I've been so sick of as a player in a long time. Like, he so clearly needs to go somewhere else. And whatever we're doing as a team and whatever he does and defaults into when he gets into one-on-one on the left side, it's a fucking disaster now. And I don't care to see him out there anymore. I'd rather have Trossard do it out there because I think Trossard's a lot better technically and can do more finishing. Martinelli is just lost out there, and I think he looks bereft. And I just don't know. I don't think it's useful having him do the same shit over there over and over again anymore. It's time.
Can I give you guys my quick theory on why I think Martinelli's gotten worse?
Yes, I would love to hear that. Actually,
I'm gonna do it quick because I know we're trying to cover this game and not get into our priors and past seasons, but
good luck to us.
Ghost of seasons past, boys.
While yeah, it's true. It was a perfectly named episode, Mike. Kudos to you. I just briefly watched back his whole goal compilation from 22-23 just to make sure that like I wasn't talking out of my ass. I think there's a couple of things going on. One, the vast majority of his goals scored in 22-23 were from central areas, and most of them within 6 to 8 yards of the goal. And they weren't off carries. They were not where he was receiving the ball from the touchline and then dribbling and beating opponents and then kicking the ball in the net. He was often either receiving the ball in the air or on the ground for tap-ins or headers, or receiving the ball in transition and had already beat his man on a through ball. So I think we're not getting into the same situations, number one, that allow him to thrive in the ways that he, I think, feels most comfortable. I just don't think he's a touchline winger. I think he's a wing forward, in other words. I don't think he is a traditional winger in the sense of, I'm going to dribble, beat a guy, beat two guys, put the ball in the back of the net. It just doesn't seem like he's that guy, and I don't think he's ever been that guy. And 22-23 shows that. I think the other thing is that I think he had great partnerships with Gabriel Jesus and Xhaka in that 22-23 season. I think Gabriel Jesus was willing to vacate the central areas and play the winger position that allowed Martinelli to play more centrally in many of the cases and many of the game states that he found himself in where he scored goals. And I don't think that Havertz is that player, nor do I think Gyökeres is going to be that guy that just sits out on the wing and lets Martinelli play through the middle. Now, I don't know if that's by design or if that was discussed beforehand or if that was just how it all worked out. But in those goals, I found often Gabriel Jesus was not in the box. He was the guy that was actually the guy standing on the touchline, and Martinelli was playing to the center. And then finally, I think he's a guy that if he's going to be a touchline, he's got to have a guy that he plays off of. He's got to have somebody that plays 1-2s with. I think Xhaka was in part that guy, but I think also Jesus tended to do a really good job of going from left to right, also deep and then forward as the number 9. And I just don't think that Havertz is quite that player. I think Havertz is definitely a guy who comes deep and knits the play, but I don't think he's a guy that necessarily goes right and left. You don't see a lot of triangles with Havertz on the left-hand side with Martinelli. In fact, I think many times when they find each other on the same side of the pitch, they often run into each other. They often are too close together because they're wanting to make the same kind of runs. And I just don't think there's any partnership there. And so with a guy that can't really beat a guy off a dribble, and with a guy that finds himself 30 yards from goal, which is where he really wants to find himself, which is in the center of the pitch, where he can get on the ball and either kick it first time or take a touch and then kick it. I just don't think he's in positions where that allow him to shine, nor is he in partnerships that allow him to get into better positions to get shots off. So that's my theory. Who knows if it's true, but it's what I've observed in terms of what feels and looks different between this season and what it looked like in 22-23.
All right, let's my head was going through where we're going to go shortly after that, but I think it's important that we cover the goal since we decided that we're going to make it a little bit of a shorter podcast. So I want to 100% cover that one. Pass from Raya, very high up in the pitch, Kelly, towards Maitland-Niles. Maitland-Niles spins, almost gets away I mean, look, I'm going to call it like this. I'm not going to be too fussed about the goal nor how it played out, but Richarlison cuts him down with VAR. This gets called back. There's a
100%.
zero probability that this goal stands, but just speaking about it on the passage of play, we love to do the blame game on social media. Everybody brings in their priors. You know, those people who firmly have always said that Raya is not as good as Ramsdale, decided that Ramsdale was 100% at fault for this one for the pass. I'm leaning towards that's the pattern of play that we do an insane amount of time. So there was all the reason in the world as to why Araya would do that pass.
Mm-hmm.
The ball got dispossessed. Well, Maitland House got dispossessed by a foul, and I thought it was look. This is the unpopular part where I like to say I thought it was a brilliant shot from Sarr. He saw it off the line. Those shots are hard, man, to nail and to guide, and it was a really good pass. But I don't know. I'm not really significantly fussed about this, but I don't think this is exactly a play in which I'm going to bash Raya for. I'm not going to bash Maitland-Niles. I don't think the claim to say he's clumsy or he's young. This isn't
Maitland-Niles, huh, Mike?
Yeah, well,
oh boy, yeah,
wow, My Lewis Kelly. I'm putting out my abbreviations wrong.
I was like, wow.
How many times did I say Maitland-Niles? Ooh,
that was just that last one. I was paying attention until a second ago.
Wow, blasted the pass right there, bro. I don't think he was being careless or anything. Like he would have got away without those silly kids. He would have got away without Richarlison hacking him down. That's my unpopular opinion. But I mean, how do you see this? I mean, I saw you guys chatting about a few podcasts in which people are going in pretty hard on the team for this one. And again, call me plastic. I am just an American watching the Arsenal for several decades now, but it is a preseason. I can't get myself too worked out on. Again, I say to myself, if VAR existed, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% on the money. It's just an unsatisfying thing to say. It was a foul. Richarlison pretty cynically just basically stood on or just kicked out and got his Achilles and heel on his way through. Maitland-Niles went out because it was an obvious foul. The ref missed it because he's a fucking idiot who's well out of his depth refereeing 2 Premier League teams. Again, I don't love the Raya vertical pass in that situation when he's that far off the line. But like Mike said, that is a pattern of play we do a lot. We get away with it a lot. It's just part of how we play. So like, I'm not having the idea that's like, oh God, he should never do it. It's like, well, he does it all the time. So like, guess what? Everybody expects it. That's why he did it. That's why Maitland-Niles received it. We do it all the time. You can complain about the wisdom of that, but they're not going to change their patterns of play. They're going to do this. He's going to do the same stuff over and over again. So it is what it is. Again, Maitland-Niles is incredibly good. He had a couple really nice slaloming runs before. Again, he normally gets through that keyhole. Like,
did you do that to take the piss out of me? Because you just called him Maitland-Niles too.
No, I didn't. That was just, wow, we were both on the same shitty wavelength. Man, I did not do that. I'm not that clever right now, buddy. I'm sober right now. I don't have that kind of poorly creativity. Yeah, that's wild. We got called this the Maitland-Niles hour.
You guys want to see the Birdman back at the?
I do want to see him take a penalty, one more penalty before I die. That's what I want for Maitland-Niles. But yeah, Miles usually goes and gets through that seam, and he just didn't. And yeah, to your point too, like Sarr still had to whack on a shitty pitch, a place he's not used to playing. He still had to whack like a 50-yard ball, and it hit dead center in the net. That chip. So it was a really nice finish too. So all around, it's fine. It's preseason, and like. Again, I have other podcasts that I listen to, and one that I'm a patron of that just got into the Raya priors and how I put this all on. Everybody just goes and defends their guy that they like, and it's like, yeah, it was probably pretty bad from both of those players. Whatever, it was a foul. Like, it's preseason, it's fine. Like if this makes Richarlison happy so that he can be extra sad when we beat him in the league twice again, then it was all worth it. So like, I love seeing Richarlison sad.
This play, I think, is so indicative of the hypocrisy of any fan base, but our fan base in particular, because it's about Arsenal, in that if we play the safe pass and then we do the horseshoe of death, everybody's like, why do we play so safe?
Why don't you go vertical?
Maitland Niles. God,
this is like a
damn it, Mike.
Disease, man. Holy crap.
Miles Lewis Skelly, if if he doesn't get the ball, everybody's gonna be like, why didn't he receive the ball there? He had a lane there to run in, and we could have been off and running in transition. 9 times out of 10, if he receives that ball and he beats the guys, or if he makes the correct pass, we're in transition and we've got numbers going forward, because he basically erases 2 or 3 Tottenham players in transition on that play. But it's the 10th time where it doesn't come off, where he turns the ball over again. I think he was fouled. It wouldn't have counted if this is the Premier League, but it's the one time that it gets cut out where now all of a sudden everybody's like, gosh, why wasn't he playing it safe there? Why didn't he pass the ball? Why did Ryan give him the ball? It's just like, you can't win with a fan base, with any fan base, but our fan base in this situation where, you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. If you're not playing the adventurous pass that gets us up the pitch quick and maybe gets us into a goal scoring situation, then you get criticized. If you make that pass and then the ball gets turned over and they score on it, then you get criticized. You can't win with a fan base like that, especially a fan base as on edge as ours. And so, I don't know. For me, I'm okay with the pass, because I think when you watch it back, you can see that there's a lane there. I think Miles Lewis Skelly can do a better job of maybe scanning before he gets the ball, so that he knows that when he receives it and turns it, there is not just one guy he has to beat, but 3 or 4 that are converging on him. And then after that, he probably can get a toe poke out to an Arsenal teammate, so that we can get on the run and going again. But again, it's preseason, guys. Like, I know we hate losing to Spurs, but last I checked, there is no table for preseason. We don't get 3 points or 1 point or 0 point for this loss.
A practice game.
It is. And we're trying things out, and some of that stuff will come off and some of it won't. But you know what? We're doing it because we're trying to see if it's going to work in a game situation where we need it to work. And you're going to make mistakes in those situations, and I think that's okay. It's not indicative of the 38 games we're going to play during the season. It's not indicative of the next time we play Spurs. It doesn't mean that Spurs are a better team than us. It just means that we tried some things, they didn't come off. We've learned some things, and when it matters, hopefully we'll be better. That's all it means.
Sure and sweet. I like it. Just before I move on and finish up this podcast, I did want to just talk briefly about I see a lot of comments as of late with Odegaard, Kai Havertz, and Martinelli. Now, this is where I just want to go back to my own priors, where I like to say, like, I was disliking Martinelli before it was cool. And I jokingly say that. I'll jokingly say that because prior to the Eze or Rodrigo links, I'm a firm believer that if he would have had the performance he had this game, I think a lot of supporters would have turned around and said, hey, he works so hard off the ball. And it's the intangibles that keep him in the starting lineup at all time. Now I feel like the heat's been turned up on him just because we're linked to Eze, just because we're linked to Rodrigo. Kind of the same thing with Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, for the most part, the last 2 seasons, he's been very good for us. And go ahead, Google search his stats. His goal contribution to the team is a lot. Now, where it comes into play is now we have Gyökeres, and all of a sudden he needs to be dropped immediately. We don't want to see him in the starting lineup anymore. And I just think it's slightly disingenuous, just a little bit. Same with Odegaard. I'm gonna give you the example of Odegaard. It's the Waneri and Max Dowman thing. Everybody's just completely ready to see him recycled out. And I just don't think that we're there in which we need these wholesale changes yet. If the Eze/Rodrigo thing comes through and somebody wants to try, Mateta wants to try something different in the left wing, I understand it. But I just think that the turning up of the heat that these 3 players are getting, just because 2 new acquisitions have been made and 1 has been linked, I just think it's a little extra for a preseason game. I'm still 50-50 on Martinelli. You guys know this. It's well documented. I've said this multiple times on this podcast, but I do kind of think it's kind of one of those things where he is probably the next person to be replaced in the starting lineup. I just don't think I don't think he played any considerably worse this game than he did a multitude of games of last season. that wasn't justified by saying he ran a lot off the ball, did a bunch of off the ball work, and he's a great worker bees and all this. So interesting to see how that plays out with those links. The Gyökeres Kai Havertz thing, I just want to make one little observation. Gyökeres makes far less of the working hard shit that Kai Havertz does. This isn't a criticism, but this is just the type of player that we have on hand. He wasn't dropping deep. He wasn't an extra midfielder. He was veering towards the left slightly, looking for balls, looking for runs. He is I don't want to call him a poacher because he doesn't camp out on the field, but he is a very aggressive striker. And I'm looking forward to see how he looks once the team gets gelled. Zubimendi starts playing a little bit more and subs happen with transition. The ball gets to the final third a whole lot faster, and we hopefully manage to exploit his speed. So here's hoping we get to see a few more minutes of him come for the Emirates Cups. I gotta say, man, 3 to 4 Spurs supporters today in the live chat. Holy shit, guys! It's
where have they been the last 3 years? That's what I want to know. We haven't had one, and all of a sudden a preseason friendly they win, and all of a sudden they come out of the woodwork.
Where you been, mate?
That's pretty impressive. All right, boys, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Go, Kelly.
I would like to see another match in England to get the taste of this one out of my mouth, and to see. I'm very excited to see Madueke play left wing, and I'm excited to see Gyökeres start at center forward with a little bit more time and see what kind of patterns we do. Because in like an Emirates Cup in London 2 weeks beforehand, I think we are going to see something more closely resembling, at least for the first half of those matches, what we anticipate the starting lineup would be and the patterns of play will be. That's what I think. And I sincerely hope also that we see that players that have some nicks and beat ups are not deeply injured, because it'd be very disappointing if we started that already. But yeah, I'm more excited than anything, and I think it's more about we just need to be normal. If we're normal, it'll be very psychologically healthy for us, I think, before leading into the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree that I want to see the players that we bought to change the way we attack on the pitch. And we've seen 10 minutes of Gyökeres. We saw Zubimendi for part of the second half. We've seen none of Madueke. I sometimes even forget we bought him, to be honest, because he's on holiday and haven't really seen it other than his announcement. I think we bought him and Gyökeres because they're direct. In the case of Gyökeres, he's physically powerful and overpowering, and he's deadly in transition. And I think that's where we think we're going to get, based on who we've targeted in the transfer market and who we've brought in already, that getting better in transition opportunities off of our press especially is where we can maybe make up the difference and close the margin. And then Madueke bringing him in, he might be our best dribbler. Who knows when he comes into the team, given what I've seen from, watching him play for Chelsea, but also watching comps of him and seeing his underlying data. He's a very, very good dribbler. Now, does he have the final end product? We'll see. Can he translate that? Can he get better at that? But those two players were bought because they're very direct and they're very good in transition. And that is what we lack right now. And until we see them, I don't think we're seeing whatever vision that Arteta has for this team for this season playing out in front of our eyes. We're seeing the Ghost of Christmas Past. We're seeing an iteration of what we did the last year, especially in the second half of the year where we really struggled to score. And until we see those players on the pitch, I think we all should reserve the right to just chill for a moment. Because right now it's, again, preseason, it's making mistakes, it's trying new things out. It doesn't always come off. But none of it means 0 points, 1 point, or 3 point on the table. And I think that's what's ultimately going to matter in about 2 weeks. So yeah, 2 games left, 2 against league opponents, probably opponents that will not sit there and park the bus. We'll probably try to play their game against us. And let's see what we got. But I think we'll see more and more Gyökeres. We'll eventually see Madueke join the team. I hope that we'll start to transition as we're coming back to Europe and playing in our own home stadium. More of what we're going to see from a starting 11 and seeing who our best starting 11 is and how they play together, and start to see this vision that Arteta has coalesce within that starting 11. So that's what I'm looking forward to coming up in these last 2 preseason games.
All right. Absolutely love it. Yeah. Enlighten me real quick, guys, because I was looking at the Emirates Cup and I see a game versus Athletic Bilbao. Who else are we playing here?
Villarreal, I think.
Mm-hmm. Villarreal. Okay. Not on the calendar yet. At least I don't see it. So I was kind of curious. I'm like, normally they do this little 4-man thing right here. So, all right. That's it for us tonight. Short and sweet. Like we said, it was a game versus Spurs. We wanted to chat about it. We wanted to talk about everything surrounding Martinelli, Kai Havertz, and Martin Odegaard. And of course, we needed to touch about Maitland-Niles because he's an important player for us this offseason. Apparently, we're bringing back the name. Maybe he might be the mascot for us moving forward for the next season. We'll see. Some things just happen naturally. So to answer your question, BX, we have not been to Rwanda yet. Unfortunately, that sponsorship is not helping the club get extra tourists over there. But there it is. Both my co-hosts. I've been Mike Hers. Chris, you can find him at West Bourbon AFC on Twitter. Kelly, you can find him at South Metro AFC on the Twitters. This is Not Another Arsenal podcast. You already know where to find us on YouTube if you're watching us. You could also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you guys want to give your eyes a rest. Cheers until next time, boys. Bye.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketty. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.